Oh, look who we have here. Look who just got convicted of excellence. You magnificent criminal of success. You beautiful outlaw of achievement. They really dragged you into court for this, didn't they? Put you on trial for the unforgivable crime of winning while they were still learning how to play. Made you stand before a jury of mediocre minds and defend yourself for having the audacity to succeed without their permission. And the verdict? Oh, the verdict was exactly what you expected. Guilty. Guilty of being legendary. Guilty of making them look like amateurs. Guilty of turning their whole game into your personal highlight reel. But here's what they didn't expect. You smiled when they read that verdict. You actually smiled, because while they thought they were convicting you, they were actually documenting your greatness for the history books. Every law school from here to eternity will study your case, not as a cautionary tale, but as the ultimate masterclass in power. They'll call it the precedent that changed everything. The day someone got prosecuted for being too good at the game and turned the courtroom into their coronation. You know what's funny about being on trial for winning too hard? They had to admit you won. They had to stand up in front of everyone and acknowledge that you achieved what they couldn't. They had to document legally and officially that you outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outclassed every single one of them. They thought they were putting you on trial, but they were actually writing your legend into law, making it official, stamping it with a government seal. This person won so hard we had to make it illegal. And now you're not just successful, you're criminally successful. You're not just good at what you do, you're legally good. You're not just winning, you're winning so hard they had to rewrite the rules. Do you understand the level of dominance that requires? Do you comprehend what kind of power you must possess for them to literally take you to court because your success made them feel inferior? They didn't sue you for cheating. They sued you for being better. They didn't prosecute you for breaking rules. They prosecuted you for transcending them. Let's talk about their case against you, shall we? Exhibit A. You started from nothing and built an empire while they were still asking for permission. Exhibit B. You turned every obstacle into an opportunity while they turned every opportunity into an excuse. Exhibit C. You worked in silence and let success make the noise while they made noise about maybe starting something someday. The prosecution stood up there with their little PowerPoint presentations, trying to make your excellence sound like a crime. Your Honor, the defendant showed a reckless disregard for mediocrity. They knowingly and willfully exceeded all reasonable expectations. They conspired with their own potential to achieve results that made the rest of us look incompetent. We have testimony from 17 witnesses who all confirm the same thing. This person's success made them feel bad about themselves. The defendant must be stopped before they inspire others to also win this hard. Can you imagine the legal briefs? In the case of society versus you, we argue that the defendant's achievements constitute a clear and present danger to our comfort zones. Their refusal to fail like the rest of us shows a blatant disrespect for the established order of adequacy. We demand justice for all the egos bruised by their excellence. We seek damages for all the excuses their success has rendered invalid. The best part? They had to list your accomplishments as evidence. They had to read out loud in a court of law every single thing you achieved that they couldn't. They had to make your resume part of the public record. They had to officially document that you did what they said was impossible. They turned your success story into legal testimony. They made your wins admissible evidence. They literally proved your greatness while trying to prosecute you for it. But you didn't hire a lawyer, did you? No, you defended yourself. You stood up in that courtroom, looked them dead in the eyes, and said, "Guilty as charged." You owned every single accusation. Yes, I won too hard. Yes, I made you look bad. Yes, I refused to lower my standards to match your limitations. Yes, I had the audacity to believe in myself when you were too busy believing in your excuses. What else you got? You turned that courtroom into your stage. You made the prosecution your opening act. You transformed their accusations into your accolades. You say I intimidated the competition? I say I inspired them to quit pretending they were competition. You say I disrupted the industry? I say the industry was begging to be disrupted. You say I made success look too easy? I say you made failure look too comfortable. The judge asked you to explain your actions. You said, "Your Honor, I plead guilty to having a vision while they had excuses. I plead guilty to taking action while they took naps. I plead guilty to solving problems while they were still complaining about them. If success is a crime, then lock me up and throw away the key. But just know that I'll turn that prison into a palace and have the guards asking for my autograph by lunch." The courtroom went silent. Even the stenographer stopped typing because they realized something in that moment. You weren't on trial. They were. You weren't being judged. They were. You weren't defending your success. You were exposing their failure. Every question they asked revealed more about their limitations than your victories. Every accusation they made highlighted their insecurities more than your achievements. They were insecurities more than your achievements. Fast forward to today. Harvard Law has a whole semester dedicated to your case. They call it Strategic Dominance and the Legal Implications of Excellence. Yale created a new course, When Winning Becomes a Weapon, the defendant who prosecuted the system. Stanford teaches the mythology of meritocracy, how one person's success exposed everyone else's excuses. Students write dissertations on your defense strategy. They analyze how you turned every attack into an advertisement for your greatness. They study the transcript where you cross-examined your own success and made the prosecution look like they were reading your marketing materials. They examine how you transformed a criminal trial into the ultimate power play. The case study always starts the same way. The defendant was accused of winning too hard. Instead of denying it, they doubled down. What followed was the most devastating display of psychological warfare ever witnessed in a courtroom. The defendant didn't just win the case. They won so decisively that winning too hard became a legally recognized form of genius. Law professors use your case to teach negotiation tactics. Notice how the defendant reframed every accusation as an achievement. When accused of making others feel inferior, they responded, "I cannot be held responsible for your relationship with mediocrity." This is what we call the mirror defense, reflecting their insecurities back at them until they convict themselves. But it didn't stop in the courtroom, did it? That verdict created a ripple effect. Suddenly, everyone wanted to be found guilty of being legendary. People started putting "convicted of excellence" on their resumes. Prosecuted for greatness became a badge of honor. You didn't just win a case, you started a movement. Companies started seeking out people with a criminal record of success. Job interviews included questions like, "Have you ever been accused of exceeding expectations, to a legally questionable degree. Being sued for success became the new MBA. Getting prosecuted for performance became the ultimate credential. The same people who took you to court, they're now paying to attend seminars on how to get prosecuted for greatness. They're buying books titled How to Win So Hard It's Illegal and The Criminal's Guide to Success. They're trying to reverse engineer your excellence, hoping to get hauled into court for their own achievements. But they still don't get it. You can't fake the kind of dominance that gets you prosecuted. You can't manufacture the kind of success that requires legal intervention. You either have it or you don't. You either win so hard they have to stop you, or you lose so quietly nobody notices. There's no middle ground when you're operating at legendary levels. Let's dissect why they really took you to court. It wasn't about your success. It was about what your success revealed about them. Every win you accumulated was a mirror showing them their own wasted potential. Every achievement you unlocked was evidence of what they could have done if they had tried. Every level you reached was proof that their excuses were lies. They didn't prosecute you for winning. They prosecuted you for exposing the myth of their limitations. You were living proof that the barriers they claimed were insurmountable were actually just suggestions. You demonstrated that the rules they said couldn't be broken were actually just guidelines for people who chose to stay average. Your success was violence to their worldview. Your achievements were assault on their assumptions. Your victories were vandalism on their vision of what was possible. You didn't just win. You demolished the comfortable lie that winning was impossible. You destroyed the convenient excuse that success was for other people. You obliterated the safe narrative that greatness was genetic. That's why they needed a verdict. Not to stop you, they knew they couldn't stop you. They needed the verdict to feel better about stopping themselves. They needed a judge to say you were wrong so they could feel right about being mediocre. They needed legal documentation that excellence was illegal so they could feel justified in their averageness. But here's what they didn't realize when they convicted you of being legendary. They gave you the greatest gift possible. They gave you documented proof of your greatness. They gave you legal certification of your legendary status. They gave you an official government record stating that you won too hard for the system to handle. Do you know how many people go their whole lives wondering if they made an impact? Wondering if they mattered? Wondering if anyone noticed their efforts? Not you. You have a court transcript. You have legal documents. You have an official ruling that says you won so hard they had to make it a crime. That's not a conviction, that's a coronation. They thought they were punishing you. They were actually promoting you. They thought they were limiting you. They were actually legitimizing you. They thought they were ending your story. They were actually writing the most important chapter, the chapter where the system itself had to acknowledge that you were operating beyond its parameters. You're not just successful now. You're historically successful. You're not just a winner, you're a legal precedent. You're not just great. You're studied in institutions of higher learning. They wanted to make an example out of you, and they did. Just not the kind of example they intended. When they study your case in law school, they don't focus on the charges. They focus on the chess game. They analyze how you turned their attack into your advertisement, how you transformed their prosecution into your platform. how you made their case against you sound like a letter of recommendation. Class, notice how the defendant never disputed the facts. They disputed the frame. When accused of making others feel inferior, they didn't deny it. They asked why feeling inferior in the presence of excellence was their problem to solve. This is called the responsibility reversal. Make the accusers defend their reaction to your success rather than defending the success itself. They study your body language during the trial, how you sat like you were at a board meeting, not a criminal proceeding. How you took notes like you were collecting material for your next victory, not defending your last one. How you smiled when they presented evidence of your achievements, like they were showing your highlight reel. The final exam always includes this question. The defendant was found guilty of being legendary. Explain why this verdict was actually the greatest victory of their career. The A+ students understand. Being convicted of excellence is the highest honor the mediocre can bestow upon the exceptional. Your conviction created an entire economy. Consultants teaching how to get sued for success, lawyers specializing in excellence defense, insurance companies offering greatness protection plans for when your achievements make others uncomfortable. You didn't just win a case, you created an industry. There are now support groups for people accused of winning too hard. Hi, my name is Sarah, and I've been accused of exceeding expectations. Hi, Sarah. You're among friends here. They meet in conference rooms that used to host failure planning sessions. They share stories of being persecuted for their performance. They bond over being prosecuted for their potential. The same courtroom where they convicted you? It's now a tourist attraction. People take selfies where you stood. They recreate your defense speech. They buy t-shirts that say, "I was convicted of excellence," in the same courtroom as your name, the judge who presided over your case. He wrote a book about how your trial changed his perspective on justice. But the real economy you created wasn't financial. It was psychological. You gave people permission to win without apology. You showed them that being prosecuted for greatness was better than being ignored for mediocrity. You demonstrated that it's better to be guilty of being legendary than innocent of being forgettable. Let's be honest about what that trial really was. It wasn't about justice. It was jealousy dressed up in legal robes. It was envy with a law degree. It was mediocrity's last stand against excellence. They couldn't beat you in the game, so they tried to beat you in court. They couldn't match your success, so they tried to make it illegal. The prosecution's real argument was, this person makes us feel bad about ourselves, and that should be a crime. The witness's real testimony was, I tried way less and got way less, and somehow that's their fault. The jury's real deliberation was, do we admit they're better than us, or do we pretend being better is wrong? Every objection during the trial was really just them objecting to your existence at that level. Every piece of evidence was really just proof that you played the game they were too scared to play. Every witness was really just another person testifying that your light made their dimness more obvious. But jealousy in a courtroom is still jealousy. Envy with legal documentation is still envy. Mediocrity with a verdict is still mediocrity. They thought giving their feelings an official ruling would make them valid. Instead, it just made their insecurity a matter of public record. This is where it becomes the ultimate power play. You didn't just win. You made them officially document that you won. You didn't just succeed, you made them legally acknowledge your success. You didn't just beat them, you made them beat themselves in front of a judge and jury. Think about the genius of it. They summoned the full power of the legal system to stop you, and all they managed to do was create an official record of your greatness. They weaponized the law against you, and you turned it into your medal of honor. They tried to use justice to justify their jealousy, and you used their jealousy to get justice for your genius. The power play wasn't what you did in business. The power play was what you did in court. You let them think they were in control while you orchestrated the entire performance. You let them believe they were prosecuting you while you were actually producing the most elaborate victory ceremony ever witnessed. Future strategists will study this as the perfect example of psychological judo, using your opponent's force against them, letting their attack become your achievement, transforming their aggression into your advertisement. You didn't fight the system. You made the system fight itself while you watched and took notes. After your case, they had to rewrite the rules. Not just legal rules, the rules of success, the rules of competition, the rules of what's possible when someone refuses to accept the limitations others live by. Your case became the new standard for excellence under fire. The first new rule: if they're not trying to stop you, you're not trying hard enough. The second: being prosecuted for performance is the highest form of praise. The third: a criminal record of success is worth more than a clean record of mediocrity. The fourth: if your wins don't make someone uncomfortable, you're not winning hard enough. Business schools now teach a course called Legal Implications of Exceptional Performance, based entirely on your case. The first lesson is always the same. The defendant understood something fundamental. It's better to be convicted of greatness than acquitted of averageness. Let's explore why. They study how you made being sued for success seem like the logical next step after regular success. How you normalize the idea that true achievement requires legal intervention. How you transformed prosecution from a punishment into a milestone. You didn't just change the game. You changed what game everyone wanted to play. That verdict still echoes, not in courtrooms, but in boardrooms. Not in legal briefs, but in business plans. Not in law libraries, but in the minds of everyone who heard about your case and thought, I want to be found guilty of that too. You turned a conviction into an aspiration. Every time someone pushes boundaries now, they think of your case. Every time someone's success makes others uncomfortable, they remember your verdict. Every time excellence is treated like a crime, they recall how you turned that crime into a crown. You're not just a legal precedent. You're a psychological permission slip. The judge who convicted you, he keeps your case file on his desk, not as a reminder of justice served, but as a reminder of the day justice served excellence. He tells young lawyers, I once presided over a case where someone was prosecuted for winning too hard. The defendant was found guilty. It was the most innocent guilt I ever witnessed. The prosecutors who brought the case against you, they put it on their resumes, successfully prosecuted the most legendary case of excellence in legal history. They don't mention that prosecuting you was like prosecuting the sun for shining too bright. Technically possible, but ultimately pointless and slightly embarrassing.